Hey, it's Michael, and this is the Kintsugi Podcast. I'll be back in a minute with today's conversation about resilience. But first, if you're interested in creating a better life, having a better career, please visit kintsugipodcast.com and grab your free workbook on how to have a better life. In it, you'll discover tips and routines so you can find the energy for the things and the people who matter most, so you can create a better tomorrow and create the life and career you desire. Hey there, it's Michael. Can you believe we're now in August? Where did the year go? Well, actually, you don't have to answer that. I think we all know where the year went. And when we look back to March, at least here in the States, it seems like eons ago. The last 5 months have been bananas, no bueno, insane, crazy. You can label it any way you want to label it because, after all the events in our life are neutral until we label them. It's been a little nuts. We've all lived through it. But there's also some bright spots. As you've heard me mention in the past, I believe COVID is happening for us, not to us. But with all the mishigas around us, it's so easy to see more of it. Doesn't take much effort. It's in the spirit of my TEDx talk that I did a few years ago. The title was, or the idea we're spreading was, you go where your eyes go, or maybe we go where our eyes go. That is, when we focus in on all the crazy in our lives, we often find more crazy. But when we shift our perspective ever so slightly and say focus in on joy, we can find more joy or gratitude or resilience or hope or really any bit of good news that can help us create a better tomorrow. You've probably heard me say that it's important to pause, breathe, and reflect. And by the way, the new Pause, Breathe, and Reflect t-shirts, we have a store opening up here in the next week or so. I'm so excited about what the shirt means in this moment in time and the messages found within. But that reflect piece is a chance to reframe, to shift our perspective so we can see something different. In our Leadership Academy during the month of August, we're diving deep on the topic of productivity because, after all, we have a long to-do list. I think that's one of the things that COVID is helping us realize, that it's shining a spotlight on the things that we need to improve, things that we need to enhance, so all of us can have a better tomorrow. So we're going to spend a lot of our effort during this month on the Kintsugi Podcast and some of my other posts on social media, diving into productivity, but most importantly, the joy around that. We're going to prioritize our productivity because we have to do the things that truly matter, not just a whole bunch of busy. We're not hamsters on our hamster wheel. We want to be focused. We want to get shift done, as I like to say, without losing our shift. Doesn't that sound pretty cool? I think it does. That's why we're diving into it. So we're going to focus in on productivity and joy. And with that, some happiness. Back in 2017, I met Shawn Achor, who is a happiness guru. He went to Harvard to study it. Pretty good school, I might add. I met him at the World Happiness Summit. And yes, there's a World Happiness Summit. In 2017, it was sponsored by Lululemon, pretty happy company. And I was down there as a coach. It was held in Miami, Florida. And I love Shawn's take on joy and happiness. He says happiness is the joy you feel when moving toward your potential. And that fits perfectly into our pursuit of creating a better tomorrow and the Kintsugi Podcast. Because even if we fall down, and we're going to fall down, we're going to get scraped, we're going to have our scars, we're going to have our wrinkles and blemishes and all those things that help us realize that we're beautiful, that will help us realize that we've lived, and helps us become more resilient, gives us some wisdom. So we're going to get back up again, but we're not just going to get back up. We're going to get back up with a little bit more wisdom so we can head in a slightly different direction. We're going to reframe it so we can get closer to that definition of a better life that we all have, or a better career. And here's the thing about joy, and to that end, happiness, is that we can experience it during great times, but we can also experience it when the road gets a little rough, like it is today. Because so often our rough moments in life, our challenges, provide some of the best growth for us to get a little bit smarter, a little bit stronger, maybe filled with a little bit more wisdom. And you can feel it from a cycling world. That's my hobby, as you know. on a really hard ride, but you know it's going to make you stronger. You're doing it with others. Or when you're parenting during those teenage years, I've been there, I've done that. Those moments are tough, but it does help you become a better parent. It can help you get through that moment with your kids. Or maybe you're just going through something intense at work. All that. What that does is it makes us want to invest more deeply in the people around us. And joy also can do this. It can help keep our mind, body, and soul, that's important, strong. And going back to the connection piece, it can also help us build connections with other people. Joy, from my perspective, is about us. It's not about me. And I think this is what we need right now, a little bit more joy, a little bit more connection and network. It's what it means to be in a strong Peloton. So I have a question for you. Hopefully you'll pop me a note. What's brought you joy over the last 5 months, wherever you may be? And your experience, wherever you may be completely different as it relates to COVID. But what have you experienced that has brought you joy? I want to share 5 things that brought me joy over the last 5 months. But first, this was all inspired by an email I got from an entrepreneur whom I follow. She was taking a break, coming back at it, and she expressed 5 things that she was joyful for. But here's the thing about her message. I'm still a big fan. So I'm going to be a little critical, which I often don't do, but I'm going to do it here. That in her message, all her joyful moments, they were littered with I statements. It was really about her, the things that she's done, the things she's been able to be on to get exposure. It wasn't about us. It wasn't about the we. It was more, in her case, me. So again, my perspective on joy is it happens when we're together. Joy equals we greater than me. It's about connection. It's about being in a strong Peloton. And this is a moment through COVID. Again, it's happening for us to take a pause, catch our breath, and reflect. Who are we riding with? Who's on our personal board of directors? Who do we trust? And are we riding with the people who bring out the best in us? If not, then this is a moment to make some changes so you can create a better tomorrow. So here's my 5. So many of you know, if you've been listening for a while, I have 2 daughters, 19 and 22. My oldest graduated university back in May. And as we know here in the States, the job market's really tough. But I've been blown away. It's been this wonderful moment of joy of how many strangers are willing to network with her. Strangers happening strangers. And it's all about connection. And I can hear her because my office is near her bedroom and she's working it. She's putting in the effort, which is great. Personal responsibility, fantastic. But personal responsibility without a strong network or a strong system in place, a strong Peloton, if you will. Well, without that, you can't feel joy. Now, she hasn't landed that dream job just yet, but she's built this wonderful network of people who are willing to support her, to help her out. So that's the first one. The second one are new cats, Jens and Finny. Unfortunately, back in 2019, our youngest daughter, she lost her cat. Rosie got old and Rosie passed away. And this cat and my youngest were inseparable. Their relationship was one of a kind. Now, I'm not a big cat person. I'm more of a dog person. But Rosie and my youngest, their relationship was fantastic. Their connection was joyful. So when she came home from college, abruptly came home from college, when I picked her up at the airport, she was like, "Dad, can we get a new cat?" So I did what I usually do. I was like, "Yeah, sure. And we'll go above and beyond. We'll get 2, Jens and Finny." And they have been a delight. Something our whole family can connect with as we all shelter in place, work from home, deal with virtual college and all that jazz in a tough job market, going back to number 1. But these cats have been able to give us a sense of connection and a lot of joy. The third one is this. Back in May, some of you know that I have a Peloton spin bike. You also know that the name of my company is Peloton Executive Coaching, 2 different companies, but we use the same word to communicate and have an analogy or a metaphor for your community. So I decided to put together a Facebook group called Pelo Flow of Peloton spin bike owners to build some community, some inspiration, some accountability. Because back in May, we went through 2 months of this. March was rough, April was rough, and I could tell people were losing a bit of their energy, some of their mojo. So we put this group together, and it's been awesome sauce to see how the members are connecting with each other. And going back to Sean's definition of joy and happiness, that you're moving towards your full potential, it's so cool to see how each member, in this case, they're pedaling or running or walking toward their potential. It's brought me a lot of joy. Number 4. So when COVID hit back in March, it's one of the reasons why I started this podcast. I felt compelled to help folks through this moment because I know a thing or two of getting through a crisis. And a lot of the feelings we were feeling back then, the worry, anxiety, fear, I was feeling in the early stages of my last bad day recovery. So beyond just doing the Kintsugi podcast, I was doing some Facebook Lives and Instagram Lives. But when you put your voice out there, or the podcast, or really anything else, sometimes you wonder, will anyone listen? Especially because it was so noisy back then. It's probably even noisier today. It's getting noisier and noisier as we go forward and faster. Well, one of the members of my Peloton sent me a note and she said, keep going. You're like yoga for my soul, which was really awesome to hear. It's nice that we made that connection. And that was the big piece. That's the thing that brought me joy, not the compliment, because sometimes I'm a little awkward when it comes to the compliments. But most importantly, it was a connection. That when you put your voice out there, you want someone to let you know, hey, you know what? We hear you. But here's the coolest thing is that she took the messages and rippled them into her family, into her friends, into her community, and slowly but surely trying to put in some good vibes, some good juju, mojo, what have you. And that's what joy is all about. Again, we greater than me. And here's the 5th thing. It's actually 2 podcasts. Not the Kintsugi podcast. That's brought me a lot of joy. And we're connected here. And we're connecting to a whole bunch of people I've never been connected to here in the States, down in South America, through Europe, in Asia, in New Zealand, and Australia. So it's been really cool for us to connect in this way. But there are 2 new podcasts that popped up on Spotify over the last 5 months, Brene Brown's and Michelle Obama's. And their podcasts are all about connection and community and hope. Now, Michelle Obama, obviously married to President Obama. So forget about the politics. I'm not talking about politics. I'm talking about her message. Because both Michelle and Brene, they didn't use this word, our word, what it means to be in a strong Peloton, but they did talk about it in spirit because they talked about connection and community. And here's the reality. We're all in one big global Peloton. We're all on the same team. At least we should be. We're all sharing the same planet. Now, we don't act as if we are. We are in the same Peloton, even when we don't see eye to eye on some things. That's okay. We can have disagreement within our Peloton. So those are my 5. I could go on and on and on, but I like to keep these podcasts short. So most importantly, I also want to hear from you. What has brought you joy over the last few months? Since the start of March, if you will. Let me know. Pop me an email. You can go to kintsugipodcast.com and you can leave an email there. What's brought you joy? While you're there, you can also check out the Paceline Leadership Academy, which is a one-of-a-kind program for corporate warriors or entrepreneurs looking to create a better life and have a better career. Because let's face it, life in corporate America or corporate wherever you happen to live, the workshops and the training development, they just skim the surface. They don't go deep enough. And our Paceline Leadership Academy allows you to put in the emotional labor so you can create the life that you desire. You can come out of this with all the tools and really the self-narrative, the story that will allow you to create a better tomorrow when we get through with all this COVID mishigash. So I hope you'll check it out, but you can also just leave a question and I will do my best to answer it either on the next Kintsugi podcast, another conversation about resilience, or just through email. So you can go there, again, kintsugipodcast.com. I hope you'll do that. You can also get the Better Life Workbook while you're there. So again, let me know what's brought you joy over the last 5 months. And I hope you'll share this podcast with someone in your Peloton that might need to feel a little bit more joy. They might have to shift their perspective away from all the crazy and on to joy, gratitude, hope, resilience, or just any bit of good news that can help us create a better tomorrow through all this. Because again, I believe that COVID is happening for us, not to us. So again, thanks for listening. Thanks for subscribing or leaving a review. And until next week and our next conversation about resilience, I hope you have fun storming the castle. We'll talk to you later.